What if one moment, one woman allegedly hanging from a 17th floor balcony ends up collapsing a billion-dollar empire?
Because now, that 2016 incident, once just a whispered rumor, has exploded into a courtroom revelation, bringing with it years of buried secrets, trauma, and potential criminal exposure. The figure at the center of this storm? Sean "Diddy" Combs, once a titan of hip-hop, now fighting for the survival of his name, his legacy, and possibly his freedom. Let's take it from the top. Cassie Ventura, known to the public as a rising R&B star and longtime partner to Diddy, wasn't alone in what she experienced behind closed doors. Alongside her was Brianna Medina, a close friend pulled into the same world of privilege, power, and alleged psychological manipulation. At first, it looked like fame. What it became, however, was something much darker. Cassie and Brianna were reportedly regular participants in Diddy's after-hours scenes. These weren't just industry parties. According to lawsuits and testimony, they were controlled environments, soaked in substances like ecstasy, cocaine, ketamine, and GHB. Drugs known for their power to dissociate, confuse, and blur reality. These weren't just tools of recreation. They were tools of control. By early 2016, cracks were showing. Brianna claims she witnessed Diddy assault Cassie with a knife. She says he choked her, threw things, called himself the devil. Not metaphorically, that's how he described himself. Violent outbursts were becoming routine, hidden behind the doors of five-star hotels and penthouse apartments. But nothing prepared anyone for what came next. On the morning of September 26, 2016, Brianna Medina found herself at Cassie's apartment, asleep on the couch. Diddy shows up, uninvited, angry. The door bangs. Brianna gets up, steps onto the balcony to smoke. Fresh air, a moment of distance. Suddenly he rushes toward her, grabs her, lifts her, hangs her body over the edge of the 17th floor balcony, her legs dangling in the air, gravity pulling. Death within seconds. She says he held her there for 10, maybe 15 seconds, then threw her onto a patio chair. Hard, bruised, humiliated, alive, barely. She ran. She didn't file charges. Not yet. But that moment stayed with her. Now, almost a decade later, that moment is back. And this time, it's in the courtroom.
On this episode of The Story Behind the AP Story, we go inside the Sean Diddy Combs case. He's charged in federal court with sex trafficking and racketeering and has pleaded not guilty. The trial has generated salacious headlines and massive coverage.
Federal prosecutors in New York have filed additional charges against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs.
In New York, a gray-haired Sean Diddy Combs appeared in court sitting between his lawyers in a yellow jail suit. Prosecutors will be allowed to show jurors security camera footage of Combs hitting, kicking, and dragging one of his accusers.
Sean Diddy Combs was arrested in September, accused of coercing and abusing women for years, with help from a network of associates and employees.
The trial began in May, and the judge has said he expects to wrap up the case by July 4th. We'll hear from AP reporters who have been in court with Combs as the trial unfolds, and witnesses take the stand. To kick us off, Larry Neumeister explains what the case is about.
So when the feds go after somebody, they look for what kind of charges are federal crimes. And in this case, sex trafficking, bringing people across state lines to do illegal sex acts, or racketeering, which can involve many different things, including that 2016 tape of Cassie being beat up by Sean Combs by the elevator bank in that Los Angeles hotel. That actually is a centerpiece of the evidence against Combs in this case. And a lot of charges like domestic violence or all kind of things they could have brought against Sean Combs years ago Well, there's a statute of limitations that would rule out certain charges, and certain charges there is no federal domestic violence charge. That's something that is brought more locally or statewide.
So the prosecution alleges Combs used violence to keep people quiet and compliant and further his own interests. And while he was not charged with domestic abuse, prosecutors argue it is wrapped into the overall picture of this case. One reason one of the first things jurors were shown as evidence was the 2016 hallway tape from the LA hotel where Combs is seen dragging and kicking Cassie Ventura.
Here's the 5 potentials this one act, the 2016 balcony incident, may collapse Diddy's empire. First, it triggered corroborated testimonies. Brianna's account wasn't alone. Cassie, in her own explosive lawsuit, backed it up. Not word for word, but moment by moment. Same characters, same methods, same apartment. When 2 alleged victims telling separate stories echo each other with precision,
That's not coincidence. That's credibility. And in a court of law, it means pattern. It means motive. It means this isn't a fluke. This is a method of control.
Second, Diddy's attempt to stop the bleeding backfired. His legal team filed for mistrial after Brianna's testimony hit. They argued it was unfair, irrelevant, damaging. But the judge disagreed, denied it. And in that denial, something shifted. Because a courtroom saying, "This is worth hearing," is a signal to the world. This woman's story has weight. It can no longer be buried under legal jargon or celebrity clout. Third, public perception has turned. Fast, violently, irreversibly. This isn't about cancel culture. It's about a mental image no one can shake. A man holding a woman over a balcony like a mob movie villain. That's not PR friendly. That's not brand aligned. That's not something Ciroc can sponsor. It's psychological. People don't unsee it. It's the kind of thing that lingers, even if charges never stick. Fourth, the industry is going silent, and silence is strategy. Brands once proudly attached to Diddy are disappearing. Corporate partners are declining comment. Artists he mentored are retreating from his orbit. Even Revolt, the platform he built to control his own narrative, is slowly removing his presence. No boycotts, no speeches, just quiet exits. Because silence isn't passive, it's protective. The industry smells collapse, and no one wants to be standing too close when it hits. Fifth, this incident sets precedent. This isn't just about Diddy. It's about the limits of celebrity immunity. About whether money, power, and nostalgia can still shield men from the consequences of violent behavior. If a man who dominated pop culture for 3 decades can be brought down by testimony and memory, then the rules are changing. The industry is watching. So is the public. So are other victims. This case could make it easier for others to step forward, without shame, without fear. So where does this leave the empire? Diddy once stood at the center of music, fashion, liquor, and culture. But now, each of those pillars is wobbling. Because you can't sell luxury when your name echoes violence. You can't inspire success when your face brings fear. You can't rewrite your legacy when your past is playing out in court, line by line, testimony by testimony. The 2016 balcony incident was meant to disappear. Instead, it resurfaced, and it might be the event that burns the whole house down. Was that one moment enough to collapse Diddy's empire? Or is this just the beginning of a long fall? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more fearless breakdowns of celebrity, power, and the stories they can't bury. This is Clout Theory, where fame gets filtered through truth.